It is a rare honor to welcome a legend from the Indian pharma industry who's made great waves on the world arena. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome Dr. Anji Reddy at DICON 2010. Dr. Reddy, it's an honor to welcome you.
Thank you.
You're a great inspiration not just to the Indian entrepreneurs, but I think to Indians everywhere around the world and to the non-Indians as well. We've all heard about Reddy Labs and its prominence, but we need to know the story behind Reddy Labs and the person that is driving it. So as a true inspiration, I thought let us, check with you and start the conversation with your inspiration. When you look back at your story, you come from a small town in a state of Andhra Pradesh in India. And it's a tremendous journey, I think. So if you can share some of the anecdotes with us, it would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I actually come from a small village, not even a town. And my father is a farmer, and he used to actually make a medicine and dispense it to people for a disease called dysmenorrhea, the pain during the menstrual period. And he used to spend money from his own pocket and my mother would do all the preparation and he would make pills out of it. And he never charged any money from anybody. And once when someone was so pleased that those days, I'm talking about 60 years, 70 years ago, when he gave 10 rupees, he went to the temple and gave it as a donation. Because as a matter of principle, he said, this is something which I learned, and I earn my livelihood from my farm, and I should not earn anything from this. So I did something short of him because I can't give it away free. So I had to give it at prices at which the people can afford. So,
but it's a huge leap. I understand, and I think it's really applaudable what your father has done. But then you went to college, and after you graduated, you worked. But when did you think you got this idea of transitioning from a professional to an entrepreneur? It's a huge leap.
Yeah, I got it because, for 6 years I was working in a public sector company called Indian Drugs and Pharmaceuticals. And it is there I picked up the skills of transforming a laboratory process into a manufacturing scale. And it is something which everybody doesn't have in India. Probably there may be a dozen people in the whole country. And I said, why should I work here for a government company, So that is how I became an entrepreneur. And I was never in doubt about the success. And from day one, from the very first product itself, I had never looked back. My worry was only about people copying me. That is very fast in Hyderabad. With the result, such a complicated thing as API, even film producers started getting into this. That was when I got worried. I would move away from that product, go into another product. And it's not easy to copy the next one. So by the time, there used to be always a gap of 2 to 3 years.
I'm glad you raised a very interesting point, and like you mentioned in your earlier speech, wherever there's a question of patent infringement, Indian pharma companies are always highlighted. And why is that, do you think? Why not other parts of the world? When we are now producing some of the largest quantities of drugs for the world population.
That is what. I will tell you some facts which are quite shocking. Canada itself had for several years, what is called a compulsory licensing. They would pay to the discoverer 5%, and they would sell the generic version of the same thing. For example, the Zantac, $1 if it is Glaxo, they would sell not at, like we were selling at 10 cents, they would sell at 85, 90 cents. And you know what? The API they used to buy from us at $100 a kilo, and they were actually earning $35,000 out of formulation. Please tell me who is profiteering and who is actually profiting. So I would say I have profited, but I have not profiteered. Canada is okay, they could afford, but how Indians can afford?
how do you think, as an industry, we took this challenge on, we overcome that, and now we are regarded as, like I said, and the former President Bill Clinton is a huge fan of this industry, and here's where he gets most of the drugs manufactured for AIDS patients, especially in Africa. I'm sure it was a big challenge in terms of perception, in terms of PR. Just wanted you to share if you can.
Yeah, actually, I must share this experience with you. When Nelson Mandela visited, every Republic Day, India has this tradition of inviting the head of the state of some country. One year it was Nelson Mandela. I think it was 96 or 97. And he's so careful with his money that his entire annual requirement of medicines he used to buy in South Africa, it used to cost him $2,000 US dollars. And that year, because he came to India, he said, he asked his High Commissioner, Jerry Matsila, his name, that Jerry, go and buy the Indian, I'm told that the quality is very good, the equivalent of what I am buying in South Africa, go and buy. So obviously when he does that, he bought some of Dr. Reddy's medicines also. And then the question came, who is this Dr. Reddy? And Jerry Matsila rang me up. He came to my lab, and then I was a special invitee of the government of South Africa. I went there and went through a lot of process, and I actually wanted to start there, but I knew that the white domination was so much, it was impossible to penetrate. So I didn't want to waste my time. But my regret today is that even while coming to San Francisco, I watched the film on Nelson Mandela. I am such a fan of him 3 times. Bombay to Singapore, I watched once. Singapore to Seoul, I watched again. Seoul to San Francisco, I watched 3rd time. And and what I regret today is that the day I arrived in Johannesburg, that day evening, I was the guest of a professor called Mahaniele, and his wife was Nelson Mandela's cabinet minister. If I had asked her, I would like to meet Mandela, she would have got me half an hour meeting. And God knows what he would have said. Being president of South Africa, he would have given me all. And then I would have transformed South African industry. I don't know why I didn't do it, but later on I got into South Africa. Today, actually we sell $12 million, which we want to increase. If you remember, the big pharma actually filed a suit against South Africa government for not recognizing the patents, and they became such a butt of ridicule,
We have a lot more interest in this particular segment, especially with the emerging entrepreneurs. And there's a keener interest because, the sheen of the IT is kind of little going away, and it's huge interest in clean energy, renewable energy, and of course biosciences. For people who want to start now, who are aspiring to follow your footsteps, what would you advise them? What do you think if you were to pick up a couple of challenges before they enter the realm of entrepreneurship or biosciences segment?
Actually, I have been experimenting on models. After I got into drug discovery, I knew that it is very expensive and I have to earn money so that I can spend more money. So therefore, I actually converted my R&D into a very profitable segment. You know what I do? I work for Big Pharma. I have got 15 projects where I don't work on a FTE basis. Normally, the people who on contract research is on FTE basis. If you have 20 chemists, they pay you $60,000 and you pay them $30,000 and pocket this money. I refused to go with this. I said, primarily, we want to discover a drug based, if you tell us which, receptor you want us to tackle. And we will design, we will produce a drug, pre-IND, we will give it back to you.